Hey guys, welcome to At Home Fitness with Coach A. It is Saturday, which in the context of At Home Fitness with Coach A's programming means today is Super Sucky Saturday, the October 10th edition, if you will. I am Coach A, and this is the YouTube channel that aims to bring you guys in gym quality coaching and workouts for your at-home or garage gym needs. Without further ado, let's get to today's work. Remember, Super Sucky Saturday, at least until it is no longer nice here in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio, is always going to include something that can be performed at a local track, whether that's a high school rec center, what have you, something that usually entails a 400-meter loop. So with that in mind, let's get to what today's work is going to be. We have 3 pieces of work today. They're all going to be AMRAPs. The first one is going to be a 15-minute AMRAP, followed by 3 minutes of rest, a 10-minute AMRAP, followed by 2 minutes of rest, and then finally a 5-minute AMRAP. Now, here's what I'm looking for out of those AMRAPs. You are going to start with your pieces here, and as we get to 15 minutes on the clock, you're just going to drop right into a rest, and then as those 3 minutes expire, you're going to pop right back up and pick up from where you left off. So this is going to give us one big score at the end that's about 30 minutes of work from the 15, 10, and 5-minute pieces, okay? Those 3 and 2 minute rests are just kind of there for you to rejuvenate yourself a little bit and to be able to keep pushing for as much of that 30 minutes of work as possible. So here's what we're looking at for movements. We're going to start with a dumbbell pull through. If you're not sure what that is, stick around and I will walk through it in the demonstrations. You are going to then perform alternating sides, 20 total dumbbell snatches. That's going to be 10 each side. Finally, the third dumbbell movement here of our single dumbbell workout is going to be 10 overhead walking lunges, or lunge steps, if you will. Now, the prescribed weight for this dumbbell is going to be 50 for the guys and 35 for the ladies. The options here on the lunge, however, are going to be a little different depending on what we're capable of and what we prefer. So our overhead walking lunge is going to be with a single arm held up at extension overhead while we're performing the entirety of that knee to ground and back to extension lunge. If you guys do not want to or cannot perform that movement, we have options. We have a suitcase lunge, which is simply just holding that dumbbell at our side, in which case the rep scheme is 20 total reps. And we have a goblet position on that lunge, in which case the rep scheme is 30 total reps. So 10 each side and 15 each side. Feel free to choose whichever one you want, or maybe even modify and adapt it as you go. Just keep in mind, as the easier the position is for that dumbbell, the more reps you're going to have to perform. The last but not least movement of this AMRAP is going to be a 400-meter or single lap around that track run. So wherever that weight goes down, you're basically going to go back to it. So again, 10 dumbbell pull-throughs, 5 each side, 20 alternating dumbbell snatches, 10 each side, 10 overhead lunge steps, that's steps with the leg. The weight stays overhead, so it doesn't have to be 10 on both arms. It is simply 10 steps, or 20 or 30, and then our 400-meter run. Again, demonstrations, modifications coming at you.
Hey guys, so for today's Saturday workout, remember we're heading outside ideally here, hitting up a track site, and it's going to start with the 10 dumbbell pull-throughs. In this position, you're going to notice that my legs are relatively straight, and I'm trying to shift and hold against that side-to-side movement, whereas now I'm intentionally bending those knees, dropping them down to more of a bear crawl type position. That's going to give me a little bit more core focus as opposed to the stiffer, straighter leg. That's going to allow me to get a little bit more of a balanced body position when it comes to fighting that anti-rotation. So we're on to our dumbbell snatches. I prefer to switch to hands as it passes the chin on the way down. You'll notice the offhand coming behind the dumbbell on the way up. That has a lot to do with that changeover on the way down. All right, so we're into our overhead lunge steps. I'm going to do 5 held above the head on the right. I think it actually did 6. And then 5 held above the head on the left. The legs are both doing the lunges, so there's no correlation there. But we're just working through this with a balanced overhead rep scheme. Then we're off onto our 400-meter run. Remember, 15-minute AMRAP followed by a 3-minute rest. continuing into a 10-minute AMRAP followed by a 2-minute rest, continuing into a 5-minute AMRAP. Stay tuned for movement modifications.
All right, so Saturday modifications. Let's go over and talk about the difference in the lunges first, and then we'll specifically go in each of those dumbbell movements and talk about how to modify them if we don't have the dumbbell. So remember, I gave you guys an option, 10 overhead lunge steps, 20 suitcase lunge steps, or 30 goblet lunge steps. Let's describe those and show you what they are. Obviously, we already went over the 10. The suitcase is going to be dumbbell down at our side. It's going to be an easier position for us to be able to control, maintain than the overhead position, but also harder than a goblet position. Goblet's going to be kettlebell, dumbbell, front of the chest, however you guys want to hold it, and from there going into my lunge steps. Okay, so the easier the position, the higher the reps are going to be. It don't necessarily have to be 10, 20, 30. You guys can always make that something closer together or something lower if that needs to be, as well as the 10 and 20 on the other reps. All right, now for the cardio pieces, let's give you the translations here. For those of us that want to row, we're looking at a 500, 400 meter row, guys, girls. For the Airdyne, we're looking at 40 cal and 28 cal, guys, girls. And then finally for that C2 bike, we're looking for 800 meters instead of 400. Okay, now let's get into those full-on modifications. So if we're looking at a kettlebell, it's going to be the exact same movements for the most part that it is for the dumbbells. If we're looking at a barbell, that's going to end up being a little bit different in that you guys are still going to do that power snatch with the barbell and maybe even take the reps down to 10. We can still do the lunges, but it's going to probably end up being 10 reps for the overhead, 20 reps for the front rack, 30 reps for the back rack on our lunges. Now, the way we would do the dumbbell pull-throughs in this scenario is going to be the same as if though we don't have any equipment. And what I want to see from that is that side plank rotation. So you guys set yourself up in a nice stable side plank position. If I have weight, I can always use weight, but I'm going to bring the hand shoulder down. I'm going to rotate it up and through. Notice the hips are not going all over the place. Just getting that core rotation and flexing that shoulder back at the top position. Now, the other things, if we're looking at no weights or bands, you guys, lunge steps, just hit the lunge steps without weight, in which case we're looking at 30 reps there. Just take it right to the highest number. You don't have to go beyond that. 40 lunge steps is just going to be way too much. It's going to slow you guys down way too much. Unless you're looking to not run, in which case make it 40. On the dumbbell snatch, all I really want to see there is a hip extension. Ideally, there's a little bit of overhead work there, but if we don't have that ability, hip extension is the goal. So if I have a band, I can take that band and I can do some deadlifts where I'm getting that hip extension involved. I can do a good morning where I'm looping that band over the traps and working from there. I don't really want to see you guys taking the band up overhead on this one. It's a little awkward. It's pretty easy to tighten up the back, and that'll come into beating us up on the run and everything along those lines. Kind of an accumulation effect. If you do want to get an overhead piece in, you're going to do one of those hip extensions. You can always take that band behind the head and press it for the same number of reps. That should be more than enough to simulate those dumbbell